Hi, I'm Katie Landon with the Los Angeles Times. For consumers out there who don't think a smartphone is worth the money, Motorola has come out with a cheaper smartphone called the Moto E. I'm here with tech reporter Sal Rodriguez today, and we're here to unbox the item. So Sal, you want to tell us a little more about this today?
Yeah, so this is the Moto E. This was announced last week by Motorola, and I'll start unboxing it. But basically, this is kind of like a great option for anyone who maybe has never had a smartphone, or they just don't want to spend a lot of money on a smartphone, or they don't want to get tied down to a contract. Basically, for $129, Motorola is offering a device that it's not quite top of the line, but it's definitely supposed to be something that's, respectable, something that, will hopefully last you at least a year or two, and will get the job done in terms of, making calls, being able to go on Facebook, maybe like uploading, a few good Instagram pictures, right? So doing like, the basics, right? At least those are the basics for me, right? But yeah, without having to shell out too much money.
Got it. So how does it feel? Does it feel like it is a little on the lower end, or does it feel like the other smartphones on the market?
I mean, it does feel like, kind of plasticky. It's got like a rubbery back cover, but one cool thing about the back cover is I believe you should be able to switch them out, or at least when you're like buying it. Yeah, see, like this thing comes off, so you can kind of like customize it, if you're that kind of person.
Whatever color you want.
Yeah, there's a few options. I'll mess with that later. But it doesn't feel like as nice as like an iPhone, for example, with its aluminum body.
Right.
But this does, it seems pretty solid. It's got a 4.3-inch screen, which is bigger than what you get on an iPhone 5, for example. Let me show it. All right. So it's a little bit bigger, but it's got a much lesser screen resolution. So while on like an iPhone and several other top phones like Galaxy S5, HTC One M8, you're getting like really super crisp images. Here, like just looking at it right away, like it does seem like a little pixelated. It's definitely not HD. But if this is like your first your first smartphone, or you don't really care too much about the screen quality, then it's a non-issue. The only other problems that people, or things that might dissuade people from purchasing this is that it only has 4 gigabytes of storage, so you're not going to be able to keep too many apps and photos and movies or anything on this. You're definitely going to be limited. Of course, you can expand that with a micro SD card. And then the other thing is that it cannot connect to 4G LTE networks. So you'll still be able to surf perfectly. Like iPhone users were limited to 3G up until, I believe, like just 2 years ago. So, they were still doing that. But, if you're like sitting next to your friend who's got like the latest Samsung, don't be surprised when your friend blazes right past you.
Right. So compared to those phones, like an iPhone or Galaxy, how much do those cost?
So those phones you can either get like usually on a contract for like 2 years, and that typically brings the price down to somewhere around $200, maybe $250 tops. If you get those off contract, for example, the latest iPhone, the iPhone 5S, it's going to cost you like $649. This one, it only costs $129, so significantly less. And you own it completely. So if you decide that you're done with it, you can just sell it. Or you can, keep it and just, go and buy a new phone, and you could use an upgrade on that one,
Okay.
So, yeah, there's like you just put down one payment of $129, and you really don't have to worry about it again.
Yeah. So the users who would buy that, what age do you think they would be? What kind of type person would want this phone?
Well, I mean, just like off the top of my head, I would probably recommend this maybe for like if you're a parent and your kid is maybe it's time to get him or her their first smartphone. This is something, you're just putting down $129, and if they ruin it, it's not the worst thing ever, right?
Can't shatter the screen, probably. They probably still could.
Well, I mean, maybe. It doesn't seem like it's the most durable, but, maybe I'll drop it here and there just to see how well it does last. But yeah, it seems like, like something that is good for someone who's never had one before.
Right.
And then, like if they really just want the phone to make calls or whatever, then they didn't waste too much money. And if you like it and you want to get like a real smartphone, then you can just easily upgrade. You're not tied to some contract.
I see, but it probably wouldn't satisfy someone who's been using an iPhone for a few years or something like that.
No way. I mean, unless you're looking, for like a second phone or something like that. In general, this is going to be much more limited. For example, it's got a camera in the back, but and actually, I'm not sure if it has a camera in the front. I think it does. But in the
Yeah.
back, it's only a 5 megapixel camera.
Oh,
and
okay.
to put in context, I believe the Galaxy S5 has a 16 megapixel camera.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's a big difference.
megapixel doesn't make all the difference, but you probably won't be getting the same kind of quality as you would from those kinds of phones. But yeah, so it's a good starter phone, and so here in the U.S., they're targeting people who don't want to spend too much, but this is also like a very global effort, and they're going after customers in countries where they're still emerging, and a lot of times in those countries, the carriers don't really subsidize phones, so they're having to pay full price. So over there, this is a way attractive option, just because of that super low $129.
If you want to check out Sal's full review on the Moto E, go to latimes.com/tech later this week. And again, I'm Katie Lannon with the Los Angeles Times.